Martin, as usual, you're on mute.
What happened? Oh man.
No idea.
Okay. Hello and karibuni to yet another episode of Great Leadership Live. Thank you for making time to spend an hour with Wawero and I and our guest this evening. And today's talk is a follow-up of last week's episode about mental health. And today's show is actually mental health, men opening up. As you know very well, this is the month of October, the Mental Wellness Month, and here to talk about mental health and opening up. We have Waweru Mudumbi and we have Edwin Gr8leadership. Our host as usual, Mr. Waweru himself and Elijah the Invisible. For those watching us live on YouTube and Facebook, you can ask your questions, make comments, and we'll bring them up on the screen. You can also follow us via our Twitter and Facebook handles at Great Leadership Live, the 8 being the number 8, and greatleadership at gmail.com. Waweru, habari yako?
Which one?
Okay, that's a good one. So tonight there is Waweru, there is Mudumbi, and there is Edwin. And that's how we will differentiate them.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
So no, good. Interesting start to the week, obviously. Yeah, the month of October obviously is very interesting in terms of the mental health and a lot of issues actually. I've been hearing a lot of people talking about mental health, things like abuse by women and things like that. So this is going to be a very eye-opening chat, I'm sure, for very many people. So I'd like to say to our guests, Edwin and Mulumbi, thank you very much for taking time to actually join us this evening on Great Leadership Live. This is episode number 18. And as usual, we always ask our guests to introduce themselves, tell us a bit about themselves. And I'd like to start with Edwin. Please tell us who you are, what you do.
Good evening, everyone. I am Edwin Goro. I am a father. I am a husband. I'm an accountant by profession, but I'm also a very passionate mental health advocate. Basically, that is me in a nutshell.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Mudumbi.
Yeah, hello everyone. Hello viewers. I'm Waweru Mudumbi. I'm a husband. I'm an entrepreneur. Also a strong advocate for mental health and also a champion with lived experience in mental health issues and illness.
Okay, thank you. Now, you said, Mr. Mudumbi, I don't know why I keep putting the word Mudumbi. Mudumbi, you had said lived experience. Please expound on what you mean when you say lived experience.
In a nutshell, is that I was in 2016 January. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and that is after struggling with it from the year 2002 when I was informed to. So I lived with it for so long without being diagnosed until 2016 January. That's what I mean in a nutshell, lived experience in with mental health issue.
Okay, Edwin, do you have a similar situation yourself?
Yes, I was addicted to alcohol for 12 years. I was also diagnosed with severe ADHD, that is attention deficit hyperactive disorder, depression and anxiety. In 2011, I also, I think I attempted suicide. Not I think, I attempted suicide. 2015, I was lucky enough to go to rehab, and that is where my treatment and my journey started. Because before then, I didn't know anything to do with mental health or mental health issues. I was very ignorant, to say the least. So now I'm a bit aware, and that is why I'm so passionate about it, because I've also realized that men tend to keep quiet about their problems, or even when they do talk, they do not talk to the right people. So at least now we want to create that safe space for men to be able to talk about what is going on in their lives.
Okay, I'm going to come back to the aspect of dependence on substances in order to try and cope. But I'm going to jump to Mudumbi and something that Edwin just said with regards to the idea of men not being able to actually come out and say, okay, fine, I have depression, I have ADHD, I have PSTD, post-traumatic PTDS. Why is it, or what's the stigma? What's the hang up about men not being able to express themselves in terms of actually having a mental issue, mental health issue?
It's just the way the society has wired us from when you started, like when you're growing up, it was not you should not emotions, you should not talk about anything alone. Not able to be given opportunity when the issue started to crumble up when I joined high school. I couldn't express myself. I remember this issue, and most telling me that wewe you're just seeking attention, wewe you're just being stubborn, wewe yani kuwa mwanaume, you need to man up. So all those things when compiled together, you don't get an opportunity to express yourself. And at the end of the day, I ended up suppressing myself with everything, and I had to go to now the coping mechanisms of I went to drugs and substance abuse for just to make myself feel better because I did not have a platform to express myself.
And that seems to be a common thread in terms of when men don't have an avenue in order to express what they're going through in terms of their mental issues. There's a propensity, at least from what I've seen, for them to actually then turn to a substance for means of actually then trying to cope, or for lack of a better word, just trying to deal with what they're trying to go through without actually knowing what they're actually going through. Edwin, what was your experience from that perspective?
I think it's basically more or less what Wareo is saying. But the interesting thing is that I did my own reaching out, but the thing is I reached out to the wrong people. And I think that is where most men we get we get into problems, because it is not that there is no help; it is that where we look for help comes at a cost, and a cost to our social well-being or our mental well-being. For me, alcohol started immediately after high school. But what I came to learn later was that I was always struggling with ADHD, but I didn't know what ADHD was. And everything that I acted out because of ADHD was seen as me being unruly or being naughty. And now, when I got a chance to really explore, when I went to college and all that, I realized that alcohol helped me numb or made me deal. But as life would have it, depression came with it, anxiety later followed, and it became this whole big mess that for 12 years I really didn't know what. Yeah.
Okay, Mudumbi, I want to ask, how did your depression manifest? Your depression and anxiety, how did it manifest itself? Was it in the form of like striking out, being angry or being grouchy, or was it the other one that's you're usually just sad, withdrawn, uninterested in anything in life?
Yeah, you've said it right. The last three sad, I withdrawn, and but then literally I was never there. Personally, I feel like I even pulled out of my life because I with three suicide attempts that I had, but one in 2008 and the other one in 2011, and now the major one that happened in 2015, 29th. of December, I kind of withdrawn from the society. I withdrawn from myself. Like I didn't even find out myself to be worthy to be anywhere around anyone. I remember I couldn't even meet anyone. If you call me and ask me to come and meet you, I'll first have to do my due diligence to know how you dress, because my esteem was uko chini kabisa, ilikuwa imedai kabisa. So I literally I just withdrawn from everything, and I was always sad. Smile, I don't remember. I first smile in 2016 towards the end, because I had to relearn how to smile.
You had to relearn how to smile.
Yeah, right.
Was it
Because
you practiced in front of a mirror or what?
yeah, my fiance then had to taught me again. Because manze, my smile you could see for someone who is very particular about smiles. Ungeniona nikismile, you know for sure that is a fake smile. I'm not smiling. I'm just probably just stretching my mouth.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. Now, both of you, I want to get to the meat of it because both of you have mentioned it quite early in this conversation. The aspect of suicide, when people are not able to find the right avenues in terms of being able to seek what they want to do, or to take care of their mental health or whatever they're going through. One option, obviously, as both of you have mentioned, is the aspect of drug use or drug abuse. And the other one then is to try and say, okay, fine, I've had enough. I'm going to take my life. I'll ask Edwin first, if it's not too personal. I'm sure a lot of people want to know, how is it exactly you attempt to commit suicide?
For me, suicide in 2010, a lot of things went wrong, starting from losing my job. But the interesting thing is that I lost my job because I was drinking too much. So I lost a job, and I was in this space where now family was pointing fingers, but I don't blame them because I had been given everything. So, and then I had made a mess of everything. So I started, it started, I think, with self pity. So I started seeing how useless I was, how hopeless life was. And slowly the thought started coming into mind. First, I just started with pills. I would take some pills and mix them with alcohol, but the next morning I would wake up. And that is when the idea of actually using a rope came. And I remember first I took a stool to the shamba, and then after 2 days I took a rope. On the third day I tied the rope and the noose and everything. On the fourth day, when my sister was going to the shop because she you were with her at home, and that is when I decided to go and deal with my problems. And fortunately or unfortunately, I think she forgot something. And she came and she just found me just as I'm putting the noose uh, on my neck, and that scattered everything. But the interesting thing is that people never spoke about that. Nobody spoke about that. Even the people who spoke about it were like, if you want to do it, you go and do it somewhere else, but not here. You get? If you want to do this, we don't do this in our family. Ni shetani mgani amekuingia, sijui nini, we need to pray for you, you know. And nobody, it actually in 2015, that is when everybody was like, oh my God, Edwin was going to do this. So that is what for me my attempt was all about.
So hang on, if I get you correctly, the family instead, well, did the family sympathize or they just told you, okay, fine, this is not something you do here, but what was going through your head now when you're being told that this is not something we do here, this is not what our family does? I'm assuming that it might have made you even more angry or at least feel less attached to anybody at all.
I felt less attached. That is a fact. I felt that I'm not part of that family. I felt angry. I didn't know what to do because now the people who are very close in the family were now talking. So I actually went away. I can't remember exactly where I went, but I went for a few months, and I was just living with friends, not very far away, just close to home. So, and I could just get a few drinks when I could, and that was my life for quite some time. Yeah, but at that point, my family was like, "Huyu ni nini mbaya na yeye?" You get, unataka kujiua juu ya nini? You know what is going on with you. See, you are the one who has faced your whole life. I mean, you cannot blame anyone. So why are you trying to give us a bad name? Why are you trying to give us, this mark that we don't associate with, you know? So it was that. It was basically stigma 101. You get, and the interesting thing is that now they know, and whenever they see or whenever they hear that I'm sharing something or I'm talking about mental health, they are like, they are my biggest supporters, because I realized they were as ignorant as I was, and to be the most interesting thing is that when people around my home area died by suicide, I was the kind of guy who used to make fun of it. I'm like, who can do that? I cannot do that. So that is the level of ignorance that I had. You get, and down
Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
years down the line, I attempt suicide, and some few years down the line, up until the time I went for treatment for my alcoholism, that is when I realized I had been struggling with depression. I had been struggling with ADHD, and I didn't know. I didn't know, and it hit me because I remember the first few months of treatment. The first month of treatment, I actually told my doctor, in our family we don't have mental issues. I only have a problem with alcohol. Whatever it is that you're telling me that you're going to treat doesn't exist, and I won't accept it. That was me in 2015.
Okay, thanks, Edwin. Udumbi, let me turn my attention to you. You said you attempted suicide 3 times, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you said the most
yeah, right.
recent one was 2015.
Yeah, 2015 December 29th at around 10 a.m. Yani I remember that day vividly because
And
that was the turning point.
yeah.
Um, Maybe to start from where it began, the first one, the 2018, I had not like planned it. It's something that came abrupt, and I remember I was talking to someone, and I was dismissed with the issue that I was because I was bringing out what is really bothering me, and the way I was dismissed made me feel not wanted. It made me feel rejected, and immediately from there, from leaving that place, I went direct to my place, and I remember just switching on my gas, and I just wanted the house to be filled with gas. Then kama ilipuka. So that was not successful. The third one in 2011, again, I tried, but this one it was on a different angle. I tried to cut my veins huku kwa mikono because I wanted to bleed out. Then I pass out, and that also was not possible. Was not a success. I remember after that incident, I was actually called into a meeting by my brothers, and I was really given a good musomo. You know, the way I'm seeking attention, the way I'm somewhat bringing a bad image to the family, the way I should, you, Peter, you should okoka, you should seek spiritual help. Now, the last one, the 2015 December, I remember that one was very intentional because I called myself into a meeting in the morning, and somewhat it was after doing a lot of cry for help, and the help was not coming, and after doing so many things and not being successful, I felt like I'm a failure in life, and the only thing that I felt I can be successful in is taking my own life. So I called myself in a meeting, and we really did a very good meeting with points, and trying to look at other ways that I can use to take my life, and we kind of reviewed the first two attempts, and the ones that were not successful. So what did we do wrong? What are we supposed to do right this time around? And that's why when I decided I'm going to get a rope in the name of Galani imeanguka kwa kisima, so I need another rope to put up a Galani for. So you guys know a kisima where you tunachota maji. So that is the what I went with kwa shop. And I got a rope, and I remember coming so very discreet, and I entered into the house, fungad mlango, and I just hanged myself. Um, so I remember vividly. I can't remember what happened thereafter, but I remember myself just hanging, and that was it. I woke up 4 days later in a hospital in a very strong room, and that's when I was asked. I was told I was going to be still admitted in the mental ward in Eldoret. I stayed for 11 days, and for the first thing that I had to deal with was my drug and substance abuse. Remembering that I used to use like 6 drugs at the same time, because manze nilikuwa nimetumia tei imenichosha, and again I was not feeling the effect. So I had to introduce so many other things,
Mm-hmm.
marijuana, kuber, ugoro, chavis, changa, so many things. I had to introduce so many things into my, because nilikuwa natumia zina mwili inazoea. So after there, it's when I remember being in the mental ward, and there's one particular lady who used to come and visit me every day, and I felt safe with sharing my issue with her. And from that particular point is when she went and talked to the doctor, and it was recommended first I had to be taken to a rehabilitation center, and also to see a psychiatrist, and that's when I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety.
Okay. So now I also so we've done the experience bit. Now I'm looking at what happened once you actually then okay, Edwin, you're in treatment, and when you're in treatment, you find out you had ADHD, you had depression. So now, how did you then move from that position now to say, okay, fine, this is how I'm going to deal with it, or these are the people around me, or whether it's medication, whatever the case may be. How did you then transition from where you were and in treatment, or how did you get help, or what did you end up like, for example, reading or doing meditation, or obviously running, I'm assuming, Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous. How did you then transition from the point of I have a problem, I have mental issues, I have mental health issues. How did you then jump from there to then say, okay, fine, it's time not for me now to uh, take back my life, time to move on?
Now, thank you very much. That's a very good question. Now, the interesting thing is that in all these issues, I am the main player, whether I like it or not. I am the main player, and I'm going to use a term that most people don't really like. But when all was said and done, I had to man up, and I man up every day because I chose not to take a drink every day. So one of the things I did was what I like maybe putting across when I'm talking to people who are going through issues is self acceptance and self awareness. I had to know that I went online and read about ADHD, alcoholism, depression, anxiety. I had to really put myself in that space so that I can understand myself. What is this they are saying it's ADHD? How does it interact with me? How do people with ADHD and alcoholism move forward? What do I need to do for myself? Because at that point my employer was paying for my rehab, so everything is covered. My family has gotten some psychoeducation. They are saying they didn't know what was going through. So we go through this moment of intense counseling, me, my wife, my family, my siblings, so that they can be able to give me support once I get out of treatment. And now I have that bit to play because I have to accept that Edwin, you cannot mess with alcohol again. Edwin, you cannot mess with weed again. Edwin, you cannot now start blaming people for each and everything that is happening in your life. There is a part that I need to take responsibility for. And how do I take responsibility for it? I take responsibility by going to AA meetings when I can. Currently, we are doing them via Zoom. So go for AA meetings. I reach out to people when I'm in problems. I have to be so much self-aware so that when I am feeling a bit off, I know I can call a counselor. I know I can call my friend Mubombi and tell him, hey, today I'm feeling a bit off, so we need to have coffee, and I tell you what is bugging me. I need to be that self-aware. I need to accept that I am. I can say I am a bit different from other people because I am struggling with a mental health condition. Now, for my ADHD, I have to take medication daily because when I don't take medication daily, my friend, driving is an issue. Simple tasks like driving is an issue. I lose concentration. I have the concentration span of a 2 year old. You know, I am
Mm,
very
mm, mm.
active. I am very hyper. You get for a 35-year-old, my friend, the kind of energy at times I have, and it is 2 in the morning. You would be surprised. So I get those are some of the things I have come to learn. I need to be in tune with myself. So I read a lot on ADHD, on other mental health conditions, and that is how I have found myself in this space where I know about bipolar, but I don't suffer from bipolar. I know about schizophrenia, but I don't suffer from it because you have to be aware to the point that somebody else will reach out to you and you need to take them through the steps to get proper help. And now for my medication, I it's like waking up in the morning. I know I have to take medication. I don't fight with it. Yet I have accepted that. And I know a lot of people do what is called pill shaming. People will ask you why you taking medication or you take medication. The number of times I have been called mwendawazimu and to levi
Mm.
are countless. But I'm used. I have developed a big skin because I know there are other men and there are other people out there who are in much trouble than I am right now. So I'm the one who's offering
But
them
are not
help.
willing, and they're not willing, and they're not
Yeah,
willing to reach out.
yeah. And if they are not willing to reach out, and I am aware that maybe if I talked to them, they would they would change, or they would even entertain the idea of having a different lifestyle from what they are having, then why not reach out? Because another thing people forget is that at times you are so down that you can't be able to reach out. So it is you to have a very good support system that knows that you're not well. Like I can give an example with my friend Wawero. At times he's too quiet, and I have to call him. I have to call Modombi and tell him, "You have been too quiet. Are you okay?" And that is when he tells me, "Oh, I'm not okay." But and then you realize that maybe he was in that space where he couldn't even reach out. So what do? I wake up, drive to his place, we have coffee, tupige makelele kidogo na siku inaendelea. That is what I'm talking about.
Fantastic. So it's called being of service.
Yes.
Mudumbe is here, so you can deny, you can either confirm or deny those
Or deny
what you
those
have said. But I wanted
allegations.
to ask you the same question. How did you how did you where was the turning point for you? How did you get to where you are? I'll elaborate a bit more on that a bit later on. But yeah, the same question as I asked Edwin. How did you then realize, okay, fine, oh, sure, sick and tired of being sick and tired, whatever you want to call it. How did you then say, I need to move and take back my life?
It is that time after sharing my struggle with that lady for so many times before I went to the rehabilitation. She made me realize that I'm the driver of my own life. No one else is going to take responsibility for my life. I need to take responsibility for my own life. And that's the time when I decided, okay, sawa, this idea of going to the rehab and getting help is not a bad idea. And over time, when I was in the rehab, I decided, like, I've suffered for so long because where I was living in Eldoret, Maze, I've suffered with stigma and discrimination was one of the major things that used to make me go, just back and back and back and back to what I used to do, the alcoholism and the drug and substance abuse. So I had to affirm myself so many times. I had to look for a clique of guys whom I can speak to freely. Um, I had to change town because sometimes you need to take, like for me, I had to take drastic measures. and drastic decisions that are going to help me better myself. So one of them was changing town. The other one is dropping the name Peter, because that name, manze, I was called so many times kwa nyumba ya changa. Anytime you call me Peter, I remember that place. So I had to drop that name. It's still bado iko kwa ID, but I don't like using it. The other thing is surrounding myself with guys who can help, who can impact my life positively. And the other one is going for a lot of trainings. I've done a lot of trainings that are supposed to, that empowers me as a man. Um, that makes me feel, take the leadership aspect of what I was created to be. Because even me getting married was a problem. Having just sustaining myself in a relationship was a problem. Because my focus was in me and me and me and the pity parties that I used to have. There's so many pity parties. So I had to take initiatives. I had to create an attitude. Me hata ukikuja uniite sahi mwenda wazima, I look at you and laugh. Na nikwambie mimi at least I've tested the other side of life. You ukifika hapo sijui what will happen to you. I had to take an attitude. You come and tell me wewe uko cast or umewai jaribu. Those funny things people will tell you about attempting to take your own life. Mimi, I laugh about it. I'll tell you, for me, I'm better off. At least I've seen the gates of heaven and I've come back. It's only that I've decided not to be a pastor. So I had to create things that are going to make me feel strong in my own space to be able to face this monster, which is mental health. Because actually, we are really playing in a very thin line where it's easy to fall back to depression if I don't take good care of myself. I'm still struggling with anxiety. You find me like I think so much about the next thing that it's going to happen in my life. Making a decision, I have to be very particular. Like I've thought through it. I've preempted all the possible outcomes that might come, and that's an effect of the anxiety, because I don't want to regret when after I've made a decision. So I had to take drastic measures and drastic decisions that are going to empower me as a person.
We call that, yeah, living in the day as opposed trying to live in the future creates analysis paralysis. So you're trying to figure out every single aspect that you can actually try and do, and it makes you just, it kind of gets you stuck where you are right now. There's something I want to ask about family support, but I want to then, because something that Mudumbi just said, and I want to ask Edwin this question. Yes, you're taking medication for whatever mental issue or mental health issue you have, whether it's ADHD, depression, but what would be a trigger? What you know yourself well enough to know what you have to stay away from, the kind of people you need to stay away from. But typically, what would be a trigger for you personally? I know there's different people have different kind of triggers, but what for you is the one thing that you are probably most scared about, that you know would trigger the whole cycle to start again?
This is going to sound interesting, but the trigger that I would literally run away.
There's nothing wrong with interesting. We welcome interesting.
Yeah. Mpango wa kando. That one is a trigger, my friend. It is true. Mpango wa kando. I cannot. The
Please elaborate. Abu, just expand on that.
I am a happily married man, right? Right now, I'm in a very stable and good place. I'm healthy, both mentally and physically. I am doing well for myself. And I'm in that space where people notice me nowadays. Before then, people didn't. Nobody noticed me.
So true.
People now notice me. And one thing I realized, and I was having this conversation with my counselor, is that one of the biggest triggers for me would be having an extramarital affair. And what would really cause me pain would be knowing that I already have a good woman at home who takes good care of me, who has been there for me when things were thick, when everybody was telling her to leave, including family. And she stuck. She stuck with me. Now, if I go there and get some yellow, nice looking person just for one night, what would happen is I know that guilt would kick me. And the best thing for me to do with guilt would be to go to my favorite spot and take my gilbis with Guinness. That one I know for a fact. So what do? I avoid extramarital affairs like the plague. And if I see a conversation or a person is walking towards that path, me nitakimbia. I will walk. I will run like my life depends on it. That is one of the biggest triggers I know. So I am very careful
Okay.
on who I associate with and how I associate with them.
No
Thanks.
one
And
wants a bad thing.
now, Mudumbi, what is your trigger?
My trigger one is that name Peter, because
Mm-hmm.
that name I was called so many times, and the moment it's mentioned, it just takes me back direct nini to places that I used to socialize. The other one, and I avoid it very much, is anger. At any given point I don't like to be angry. Sikubali kabisa kukasirika. Makasiriko mi sitaki. And I think Edwin can attest to that. Mimi, I'm one that
Mm.
and that person that will laugh at any situation. I don't want to be angry because I was so angry for so long that my body somehow just adapted that.
Mm.
So the moment I get angry, I remember there's a day, Edu, the other day that you guys helped me to go to see a doctor. I was angry, and a lot of things came in to an extent I was even contemplating again to take my own life. So mimi, being anger is one of the things utanitusi nimekuangalia tu and I'll smile about it. I'll be in a very bad fix. Most of the time I've been told, we mbono uko na kiburi, we're in a very serious situation and you are here laughing or you are here smiling. So I avoid anger at any given point.
Okay. Thanks, Mudumbi. There's something that you just mentioned. I'm gonna put a pin in that. Then I'll come back to that. The something that had been mentioned as part of the whole process. When you're saying your family tends to reject you, now when you have then identified these are the issues I have, depression, anxiety, ADHD, all those aspects that encompass mental health. How does one then get the family on the same page as you? Because they've already been saying, oh, this person is this person is that, we want to disown them, they don't, whatever. But part of the whole process of becoming who you are would entail those around you accepting and understanding what you're going through. So, in terms of family support, once they started understanding what it is that you actually are going through, was there a change in attitude, or was there a different way they embraced you, a different way they looked at you, or they just said it's still your problem, it's still got nothing to do with me? I mean, yes, you keep your head down, keep your side of the street clean, but it also affects you affected the family for so long in whatever you were going through, which you didn't actually know initially until you actually found out, obviously going through treatment and everything. But how does the family support then come into play?
Well, I think for me, and I always say this, is my family has been one of my greatest support system. And one of the things that led to this is because I had a very good treatment team who made sure that family therapy was part and parcel of my treatment, my inpatient treatment. So when I went into treatment, uh, the treatment team made sure that my family members, the close family members, starting with my spouse, my parents, my siblings, were there and they were always psycho-educated on what all these mental health issues are all about and what mental health is. So they were given a very good understanding and a base or rather a good foundation into what to expect and what exactly is going on with your son, with your brother, and with your husband. So that formed a very good base for me, even as I exited treatment. Now, as I started now accepting myself and I went back into society, my family was already there, and they were now waiting to see how I would play this. And the interesting thing is that I was lucky enough that even from my employer's point of view, they have really supported me even up to now. So that gave me a very good backing and a very good foundation. So support for me has been immense. Family support has been integral in this part in this phase because they are always there for me. Because what people don't realize is that some of these mental health conditions, they don't take a break. You get, one day you are good and the next day you are down. So you need people who constantly are there for you and people who actually understand what it is you're going through. So that for me, for my family, has been exemplary. That is what I would say, and it has played
Okay.
a huge role into some of the things that I have been engaged in, even as a mental health champion.
Thank you, Edwin. Mudumbi, would you echo Edwin's sentiments? We lost.
Mudumbi got disconnected. So let's just
He
carry
got
on with
disconnected.
Edwin. Oh, there he is.
Okay.
Okay, ask him.
No, yeah, he
He's
is.
back.
I'm sorry for that. My internet.
I hope he heard what I asked. But okay. Mudumbi, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you guys.
You can ask again. I don't.
Edwin, I'm saying as we're
Yes.
waiting for Mudumbi to come on board. Edwin, how old are your kids? How old are
I
your
have a
children?
daughter who is
Right. Okay. Let me.
she's 3 years.
Let's hold.
She's 3 years old.
She's 3 years. Okay.
She, she's 3 years old,
Yeah.
and one is due
8
December.
and 3.
Mhm.
So I'm
Okay.
going to be a father of
Congratulations.
two, and I'm
Fantastic.
really excited and I'm happy to be here. The good thing about it is none of them will ever meet me drunk, so that's a plus.
Okay. Okay, I'll come back to that. In terms of, I want to expand on that. I'm going to come back to Mudumbi and ask a question about family support. It's the same thing that I asked Edwin, but I wanted to ask whether you echo what Edwin had said.
For me, family support, it has never been easy till today. I'm still struggling to first gain their trust back. Because I'm a last born in a family of 5, so there's a way last borns are being treated. Hivi tu kimchezo mchezo, I've really struggled, but being consistent for me, it's something that has really helped me. I was never good at decision making, so I've made sure I'm keeping myself at par with I can decide on my own. And that really gets them back to even trusting my decisions and everything. Because before they use ilikuwa pita jump and I just ask how high, but nowadays you tell me jump and I'll ask you why am I jumping first, because I have to decide for myself
Mm.
what I'm supposed to do with my own life, not to be controlled with someone else. um I remember struggling even during my wedding. It was not an easy thing for me to decide even the date, because they wanted to put their input on it, because they've never understood me as a person who can do my own stuff without asking, without consulting others. So it's still a struggle to date, but I'll say they are coming along, because with time,
Okay.
anytime I'm doing a show, I have to invite them so that they get a better insight on what I'm going through, and the perception on mental health as a general topic.
Okay. Thanks, Mudumbi. Edwin, and I'll ask Mudumbi the same question. Obviously, we're tag teaming on the questions. You said your daughter is 3 years old, right? Edwin?
Yes.
Edwin, sorry, you said your daughter is 3
Yes.
years old, yes?
My
And you
daughter
have
is three
another one on
years
the way.
on the way.
And you have another one
December.
on the way.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, at what point whether as they're growing up, will you tell them about your experience, what you went through?
Why not? Why should I
Okay.
not tell them? Yeah, I will have that conversation with them. I will definitely have a conversation with my children of what the experiences that I have had, so that they can also be aware. Because alcoholism runs in my father's side of the family. You get? And there
Yep.
is no genetic mark. There is no specific genetic marker that has been shown to, really pinpoint that there is about alcoholism. But we know that people who come from families that have people who are alcoholics are genetically predisposed to becoming alcoholics themselves. So why would I not
Mm-hmm.
inform my children that this was my past, this is what I went through, and this is where I am? You get? I think it would be a wise thing for me to do. You get? And I also know that things like ADHD are also genetically people can be genetically predisposed. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very sure uh, when I look at my daughter at times, I'm like, okay, this is so me. I mean, why would I not have that conversation when she gets to the point where
Yeah.
I can see that some things are a bit off? I think I should. It is the prudent thing to do.
No,
So I
okay.
will
No, I
have a
was just asking
conversation.
because there's some people who might be inclined to say, maybe I want to shield my children from, knowing that their dad was a monster at some point or he tried to take his life and things like that. So it's a sense of, I suppose, shielding them.
Yeah. I understand some people will do that, and it is, yeah, it is. I think it is based on how you relate with them and you as a person, how you view
Yeah.
your experiences. So for me, I think I view my
Okay.
experiences as a learning experience and a stepping stone to greater things. Because right now, the things I'm involved in the mental health space, I wouldn't have thought that I would come this far, honestly.
Okay. Mudumbi, please jump in there. How many children do you have?
I only have one son from a relationship that did not work, but I really love that son of mine.
Okay.
Uh, he's
Right.
turning 12 years
Mm-hmm.
this December. And as you've asked,
Right.
if I'll be comfortable to share with my kids, charity begins at home. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot just be out and about like I'm sharing about my story and to put my family away. This is something that I said when they get to age, when they get to an understanding of, you know, about their own life, I'll have to share my story with them. Because if I don't make a better world for my own family, then how else will I be able to help the world become better? So that is me. I'm very comfortable with sharing with my kids and anyone else who would come on board and want to hear my story. Something funny, even some of
Okay.
the organizations.
Yes.
Pardon. So, for me,
Carry on.
sharing is
Sorry.
not a
Yeah.
it's not a big deal for me sharing. Something funny, even the organizations that I'm working with. I used to work with Uber here in Nairobi some years back, and it's through me sharing with someone totally a stranger, literally. Like this is my story, trying on my own space. I used to sensitize my customers about mental health, and that's how I was hooked up
Mm-hmm.
into so many organizations that deal with mental health.
Okay. Something you see, there's a lot of different angles, a lot of different things that I'm sure a lot of people are picking up. It's not all doom and gloom. But also, then I'm assuming, is there a cautionary tale in the sense that you can never let your guard down going forward? It's not something you say, okay, now I'm not depressed. Now I don't have, can you even say, yeah, I don't have ADHD anymore. I don't have depression anymore. I no longer have anxiety. Or are they just lying under the surface, waiting for like what we had asked before about those triggers? Does your environment affect it? Does the people around you affect it? Can you ever assume that you're safe and you're
Uh,
okay? You're good to go.
no, when we are
Well,
talking about mental health, it's just the same way as we will talk about physical health. Do you ever let your guard down for
Mm-hmm.
malaria and for these other diseases? I was once affected by depression. That does not mean that I have somewhat acquired immunity towards depression. So all the time I have to take good care of myself. I think basically that's just that equal to evil. You cannot change the fact that you have to take care of yourself.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Edwin?
For me, I would say for me ADHD is the gift that keeps on giving. It's always there. So that is why I'm
Yeah.
constantly on my medication, and I'm happy about it. Actually, when you read more about ADHD and you really become self-aware, you come to appreciate that you have some strengths that other people do not have. But for depression, depression has taken a backseat for quite some time, and I'm happy about that. Although at times I feel I might be sinking into it, but I have not really gone back to where I was in 2015 and backwards. For anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
at times, as life would have it, an attack will happen. And but the good thing is that I am self-aware. I am aware, and I'm able to deal with it. And I'm also surrounded by people who understand that I am prone to this happening. So it means that I'm always on toes. I'm always in that environment that something may go amiss. So I'm aware of my triggers. I never minimize a trigger, no matter how small, no matter how minute it might be. I never minimize it. I always treat it as the threat that it is. So that helps, and that is for everyone. Just like Warero is saying, you do not take a back seat when it comes to your physical health. So why take a back seat when it comes to your mental health? Keep yourself engaged in a lot of activities. For me, I do jog. Apparently, I realized that I can jog, so I do jog. You get,
Okay.
and I keep
Okay.
myself in activities. I'm also now also involved in. I think also Wawero. We are in the same program with Wawero.
Mm-hmm.
We are working without volunteering with an organization where we are talking about stigma against mental health, because you realize mental health conditions are so common. 1 in 4 people will experience a mental health problem in their lives. And here watu wako tu ati mental health really, it's like some alien thing. It is here with us, my friends.
Mm.
1 in 4 people will experience mental health problem. So we are out here with Warero and other champions. We are talking about smashing the stigma, because there is something that was captured some time back that I said, when I keep quiet, stigma wins, and I can't let that happen. So in everyone,
Yeah.
each one of us, their own spaces. When you keep quiet, you breed stigma, because stigma likes that. Stigma wants a space where it is not being challenged. But the minute you challenge stigma, my friend, it doesn't stick around. So, and that is why I was saying that in our spaces, when you are called a name, you just look at that person and you engage them positively. The many times I have been called levy and crazy and all that, I have always sat down with that person and engaged them kidogo kidogo, and they realize that they don't know, and I know, even if it's just a little bit. So we are out here educating people, and that is what we need to do. Thank you.
Okay.
One out of four
Yeah,
has
yeah,
mental
carry on,
health.
Mudumbi.
At least Waweru and Mato, here you are safe. You have two guys.
What?
Thank you for the reassurance. Thank you for the reassurance. There's something, to be honest,
Nice
I'm
one.
running out of time. I wanted to ask this question for because Edwin and Mudumbi, you guys obviously have had some experience under your belt and you know how to deal with this. Um, I'm looking at a perspective where there's people who are looking at their spouses or looking at their children who now are thinking, I'm at my wit's end. What can I do? That's the family side. But the person who then now starts experiencing aspects of anxiety, ADHD, depression, what, from your experience, what have been your coping mechanisms outside of using medicine? Is there things that you do, like take time out, or like Mudumbi, when you're saying when you get angry, some people take 10 steps or they take 10 breaths or whatever the case may be. But what is the best way that you individually cope with the issue of mental health?
For me, it's simple. I've learned to husa. So many a times, especially for my spouse, we had to have a discussion and to come into an agreement. When we feel the discussion is becoming heated up, we just we back out of it kidogo, and we let things pass to cool so that we are sober when we are doing the discussion. Because if you don't let the people who are around you to know how you cope with some of these things, most of the time they will end up misjudging your actions. Like someone probably wants to engage you in a very serious discussion, and you're like, I cannot do this now. I feel I'm not in the space of doing this discussion. So if you don't have that discussion prior, or someone doesn't know that this your mechanism of trying to avoid things getting messy, then they will misjudge you. For me, I've made a personal a personal initiative to sensitize the people who are around me, my friends and my family, to know that ukisikia nimefikia hapa na kuambia let's have this discussion later, and I'll give you a specific time, probably tomorrow evening, wanawachana na story hivyo, because if you don't do that you'll end up kila wakati you're getting back to that same situation ya kukasirika, which is not good.
Yeah. Edwin, what are your coping mechanisms?
One of my coping mechanisms is exercise. I exercise a lot, jogging. The other thing I do is I read. Every time I feel that I am not in a very good space, I will take something and read. It doesn't matter what. I'll just take something, and mostly I have decided that I will look into something that has to do with mental health. The other thing is I reach out to my support systems. I know what Wawero can offer, what Mudombi can offer when I'm feeling in a certain way, when I'm feeling a certain way. So I will call him. I know what another person would offer when I'm feeling a certain way. So those are some of my coping mechanisms. The other thing is when I feel that I really need to, uh, let it all out. I'll just get in my car and just drive around and put my thoughts in order and let me, be in that space where I recollect myself. And that is some of the coping mechanisms that currently are working for me. But I want to tell people that what works for me might not work for you. Recovery is not a one size fits all. So one person may take option A and it works, and somebody may take the same option and it might not work. So keep yourself in that space. You realize what actually works for you. For
The
anxiety, I also
self-awareness.
do a lot of breathing. Yeah, breathing exercises will always help anxiety, but also remember what has triggered that anxiety attack. What is triggering
Yeah.
that anxiety? Because when you realize what is triggering that anxiety, you will also come to appreciate that you can be able to handle some of these things without even taking medication. But
We lost Edwin.
Yeah.
Dumbi, do you want to jump in?
Yeah. I just wanted to add something smaller. In our CVs, there's that bit we write our hobbies, and I don't think most of the guys really use their hobbies to.
No.
I think it's just something ya kawaida that you have to place it in your CV. But for me, that is a
Yeah.
very particular thing that I've had to exercise, because for me, one of my hobbies are driving, and I've used driving as one of the coping mechanism. The other thing is I've taken a personal initiative of doing a lot of training for myself. So whenever I get a
Okay.
where I can be to some sort of training and watching some YouTube videos that are, they are focused on something, I take that chance as quick as possible.
Okay. Thanks, Mudumi. We have still lost Edwin. So we need to start wrapping it up. What I want to see, or rather, now you said, Mudumi, you said you were first diagnosed quite early, yeah? When you said you realized that you had the mental health issues. So it's been a journey of how long?
I was diagnosed in 2016 January. So now I'm talking about
Right.
4 years, 9 months, and about 6 days.
And it's been, you have your good days, you have your bad days, but would you, at any point, would you change your worst day today compared to the best day when you were either using or you had to cope with depression at that time and everything? As in, things are, they might not be exactly, there's a lot of people who say, okay, fine, I might not have a million shillings like I used to when I had this top flying job, etc., but I'm in a better place to deal with my life now than 4 years ago.
Manze. I'd love about that question because the milestones that I've achieved in these 4 years, 9 months, and 6 days, I cannot compare with the 15 years that I was
Hmm.
struggling with depression, anxiety, and drugs and substance abuse. I cannot compare. I've made, Manze, I'm in a better
Okay.
position. I was like 46 kgs then when I was being diagnosed. Now I'm doing 90. I'm supposed to go to a gym. Yeah? I'm happily married. I have a very supporting wife. I have a very supporting wife and a loving wife. Oh, I cannot even dare to compare those two things. It's like heaven and hell. Vitu mbili tofauti.
Okay, thanks, Motherby. Edwin, we lost you a bit, but I'd like to ask, yeah, in terms of your journey to where you are now, and I'm sure it's been hit with a lot of road bumps. It's not that it's been plain sailing all the way, but in general, where you are right now compared to where you began, how has that experience been for you? Or what would you, between the two of you actually, how would you then set somebody up to say, listen, the best is yet to come, even if you're going through the lowest point in your life right now?
Uh, First off, I think I would like to state I have been clean for about 1,930 days. That's about 5 years, 3 months, and 11 days. And this, even when I'm going through what current, even if you give me what, I think this, I'm living my life. This is the best thing. When I was in active addiction, we had like 5 miscarriages, and
Wow.
now I have a child. We are expecting the second one. There's nothing good about that past. It's just the lessons that I learned, and I wouldn't want to go to that past. I only go back when I'm just trying to tap into, those experiences so that I can elevate other people to get out from similar situations. But I wouldn't give my worst day today for the best, or what somebody would assume to be the best day for me, because I am enjoying my life. And just like my friend Mudombi, he was lucky he was 46 kgs, me I was 40. Currently I'm 82 and I'm exercising. And life is good. Life is good, my friend. I have a job, you know. My employer is still, paying for some of the services that I use when it comes to psychosocial needs. I mean, I am doing well. I am really, really doing well. I couldn't afford a car back then. I I don't mean to brag, but I own a German machine.
Go ahead.
So I can't complain. My relationships with my family is back on track. It is not like 100%, but it is better than it was then. I remember when I left rehab. When I came back, 2 weeks later, my mom stopped taking a concoction of high blood pressure medication. I mean,
Mm.
I can't. I don't even. I lack words to actually express how life is great on this other end. And the fact that I am using my experiences. I am using my experiences to try and help people who are struggling. I recently started a WhatsApp group for men who are going through mental health issues. So when things are very thick, I refer them to good therapists and all that. I mean, I couldn't have done that when I was high on Gilbis and weed and all that. You get. I am involved in programs that speaking up stigma, basically basic needs, basic rights Kenya with Time to Change UK. They are talking about stigma. I'm one of those champions who are in Kenya who are talking about challenging mental health stigma with my friend Mudombi. We are at the forefront of this, and we are dealing with it head on. I mean, I couldn't have done that 5 years ago. I'm in this space and I'm Waweru Njoroge nilikuwa nakuona kwa TV. Sasa tuko na yeye hapa tunaongea ni kama we have known each other for our whole lives. I mean,
it feels like that, by the way. It does feel like that.
That is not eating life with a big spoon. Sijui utaniambia nini. So that is what I can say for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. You saw how we started the conversation with regards to what everybody has experienced, the aspect of the suicide. And here we are at the end of the show, and we're having a laugh as if we're having a cup of coffee. So it's not all doom and gloom. And what I particularly liked about having a chat with Edwin and Mudumbi is that it comes out, it's a lot of people, like they said, there's masculine toxicity where they think that they can't go to somebody, they have to look like John Wayne because that's how a man should behave and everything like that. And that's a stigma that I think Edwin and Mudumbi are doing very well to actually bring out. It's our hope that you'll be able to continue reaching out to a lot more people, being of service, and other people actually now will actually say, okay, it's okay not to be okay, first of all, something we picked up last week. But at the same time, I should not feel ashamed. I should not feel guilt because of what I'm going through. It is, like you said, one in four. It's not something that we have to then push under the rug. It's not something we have to try and hide away. We don't have to lock these people up in mental asylums. It's just a means of how to actually communicate with them and get them to communicate about what they're going through. And this is what I hope a lot of people have picked up from today's conversation. And I'd like to say a very big thank you to Mudumbi and Edwin for being our guests. And I'd love to continue this conversation as my earphone drops out, my headphone drops out. But yeah, Martin, I don't know what you want to add to this.
Yeah, I was just actually writing the ticker. I was just saying, reach out to us by email if you or a close one is in need of professional help, and we can try match them up with Edwin and Mudumbi's organization. Yep. It's a very good discussion we've had. I like the ending. I like happy ending, and you can see as I will not add to what Mawero has already said, because he said it very clearly. You could see the whole journey of where it started, the depression, the feeling of hopelessness. There's no future, nothing for me. And now I'm seeing this other side of you guys, really comfortable in your present life, accepting, knowing that yes, it exists. You've worked out your coping mechanisms, which is really important. Yes, and you're supporting people around you. I think that is the recipe beyond any prescription a doctor can give you. Yeah, family that understands you, supporting wife, children. Oh, children is the best medicine. Just look at them running around and where your day is made. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. Really appreciate it, and I'm sure you have touched someone out there. Of course, this show will be on the platform. I'll share the link, and you can keep distributing it around in your network, and somebody is bound to make that call. Whereas I also have some quotes actually to share. But
Please,
I want
go
to
ahead.
run that in. We can try and hook you up.
You're still typing away.
Very important. There is that one call which is like it's a matter of life and death to somebody. Yeah, and I think it's important. Yes, there we go. So that's our email address. Write to us if you or someone close to you needs professional help, and we can try and hook you up with Edwin and Mudumbi's organization. So, my quote for today, we've got Michelle Obama, actually. Last week was Obama the Mr. Today, Michelle. At the root of this dilemma is the way we view mental health in this country. Whether an illness affects your heart, your leg, or your brain, it's still an illness, and there should be no distinction. And I think Mudumbi touched on that, something similar. Having a mental disorder isn't easy, and it's even harder when people assume you can just get over it. And this one, it's very small, so I'll read it slowly. Recognizing and preventing men's health problems is not just a man's issue. Because of its impact on wives, mothers, daughters, and sisters, men's health is truly a family issue. And that's from Mr. Bill Richardson. So thank you all once again. And I think the time has come to say goodbye. You can write it or sing it, or whether you know the song.
Which one? Oh, okay.
And, yes, time to say goodbye. Sarah Brightman.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you sing it. Okay, no, let's just say good night.
I'll sing it on one of the, when there's a show that that has music and some musicians.
About musicians, yeah. Let's do a show about musicians.
Artists, actually, we had mentioned earlier, now that you've mentioned it, one of the hardest hits in our industry, and we have to be cognizant of that, are people who are in the entertainment industry. You've got the DJs, when all the bars really locked down, lost their job. Because I mean, where do you go to DJ, you know? So you had live performance musicians, live bands, and all that. There's a whole set of artists, especially in the music field, that were affected, and we've had several who also committed suicide. So it's really it's been tough for many people out there, especially artists. So next week, girls, we now have women opening up and sharing their side of the story. Let's see what I don't think it's one shoe fits all or something like that. Well, let's hear what
mentioned before.
Yes, what leads women to going through various mental health issues. So good night. Thank you as always for following, and see you next week. Good night, guys.
All right. Good night.
Yeah. Good night.
Right.
Yeah.